Envy, a seemingly small and often overlooked emotion, it wields a destructive power capable of corroding even the strongest happiness. It's a universal feeling experienced by everyone at some point, yet rarely confronted consciously. In Paradise Lost by John Milton, this emotion is embodied in Satan himself, a being whose envy of God and humanity drives him to a catastrophic rebellion. In this video, we will explore what Satan's story can teach us about envy and its devastating impacts on our lives. After all, Satan is not just the villain of the story, he is also a dark reflection of the human emotions we avoid confronting. The story of Satan in Paradise Lost is one of the most fascinating and profound representations of the birth of envy. Before his fall, Satan was one of the most powerful and radiant angels in heaven, a being who walked in divine glory and favor. However, everything changed when God decided to create humans and place them as the objects of his special love. For Satan, this decision was like an open wound that quickly filled with resentment. Envy, in this case, did not arise from an unmet need, but from a perception of relative loss. Satan had not lost anything tangible. His position remained grand, yet the existence of something new that seemed to threaten his importance was enough to plant the seeds of rebellion. This feeling grew until it became an insatiable hatred for God and his creation. What makes this narrative so impactful is how it mirrors human experience. How often do we feel this way about the achievements or happiness of others? Perhaps it's the co-worker who gets a promotion or the friend who reaches an important milestone. Even though nothing has been taken from us, the mere perception that someone else possesses something desirable can be enough to trigger envy. In my own life, I've experienced situations where envy was present, and I want to share one of them with you. Over 10 years ago, I had a friend who, in my mind, was always like a brother to me. We were inseparable, and many people even thought we were siblings because of our many similarities. I helped him whenever I could and defended him in every situation. I genuinely considered him part of my family. There were countless times when he needed me, and I never refused to help. I lent him clothes, helped him find jobs, gave him advice on relationships and family matters. Without wanting to boast, I was the kind of friend anyone would want to have. However, on several occasions, I noticed that he didn't show the same consideration for me. The first time I realized this was when I got my driver's license. I shared the news, full of joy, but he didn't even congratulate me. On the contrary, he seemed bothered and strangely stopped talking to me for 2 weeks, something that had never happened before. Later, when I bought my first vehicle, he once again seemed uncomfortable. Shortly after that, he stopped speaking to me altogether. To this day, I don't know the exact reason for the end of a 10-year friendship, as I never did anything to harm him. Deep down, however, I feel that envy was what drove him away from me. Now, setting my personal experience aside, let's return to the theme of this video. Consumed by envy, Satan makes a crucial decision. He chooses destruction over acceptance. This choice symbolizes a destructive pattern that envy can create in our own lives. When we allow it to grow unchecked, we often make choices that not only harm others, but also sabotage our own well-being. However, there's something even more intriguing about this story. Satan's envy doesn't arise in isolation. It is fueled by pride. He cannot bear the thought that something or someone could be more loved or exalted than he is. This connection between pride and envy is essential to understanding how these emotions often walk hand in hand, amplifying each other. As we continue this exploration, we'll begin to unravel how this emotional poison shapes our perceptions and behaviors. But first, we need to delve into the psychological roots of envy and what it truly means in our lives. To understand the impact of envy, we need to examine its psychological roots. What exactly causes it? Why does it seem so universal and yet so destructive? The answer lies deeply embedded in human nature and in how we perceive ourselves in relation to others. Envy often stems from comparison. From childhood, we are taught, directly or indirectly, to measure ourselves against others' standards, whether it's the sibling who gets better grades, the classmate who is more popular, or the co-worker who who advances faster, we are constantly exposed to a social mirror reflecting what we should be. Envy is the product of this comparison, a feeling that arises when we believe something we desire is out of our reach but accessible to others. However, comparison alone isn't the only trigger. Envy becomes particularly powerful when it touches sensitive areas of our identity. If you take pride in being good at something, such as your career or appearance, another person's superior achievements in those areas can feel like a direct threat to your sense of self-worth. This sense of threat is what makes envy so personal and painful. Another crucial aspect is the perception of fairness. Envy intensifies when we feel that others have obtained something unfairly or without effort. A classic example is the co-worker who gets promoted despite being less qualified. Situations like this create a mix of indignation and resentment, further fueling envy. In the case of Satan, his envy arises from a perception of devaluation. To him, God's love and attention directed toward humans represent a kind of betrayal. He sees himself as the rightful recipient of that devotion, which transforms his envy into rage and ultimately into a desire for destruction. Modern psychology offers valuable insights into how envy can lead us to irrational behaviors. Studies show that envy can trigger self-sabotaging actions, such as avoiding growth opportunities simply to avoid feeling inferior to others. Additionally, it can poison our relationships, creating unnecessary rivalries and emotional barriers that distance us from others. Envy is not just a fleeting feeling. It can transform into a true inner hell, eroding happiness and creating an emotional prison. Just as Satan in Paradise Lost is consumed by his anger and resentment, we too can be drawn into this emotional abyss, where the focus is always on what we lack, never on what we already have. This inner hell stems from a vicious cycle. Envy causes the achievements or possessions of others to stand out disproportionately, while our own accomplishments are minimized. This imbalance in perception creates a constant feeling of inadequacy, fueling more envy and reinforcing the idea that we will never be good enough. It's a downward spiral that, if not interrupted, can lead to chronic frustration, anxiety, and even depression. In Satan's case, his envy transforms into a burning desire to destroy the happiness of others. He cannot stand the thought of humans living in peace in Eden and decides to corrupt them, even knowing that this will only deepen his own suffering. This behavior echoes in our lives when, dominated by envy, we engage in destructive actions, whether sabotaging others or ourselves. Psychology explains that when envy is not confronted, it can have significant physical and emotional effects. Constantly feeling disadvantaged activates the body's stress response, leading to problems such as insomnia, muscle tension, and even cardiovascular diseases. Furthermore, envy can harm our ability to form genuine connections, as we tend to view others as rivals rather than allies. The hell of envy also has a devastating impact on our worldview. It creates a scarcity mindset where we believe that happiness and success are limited and that if someone else has something, we are automatically at a disadvantage. This mindset traps us in a cycle of dissatisfaction, unable to appreciate what we have or find joy in the small things in life. Breaking the cycle of envy begins with a deep recognition of its presence in our lives. Often, envy operates subtly, disguised as criticism or resentment, but its essence is always the same: discomfort with the success or possessions of others, preventing us from finding our own peace. Just like Satan in Paradise Lost, who rejects his position and surrenders to hatred and rebellion, we too can lose ourselves in destructive emotions if we do not identify and confront them. Recognizing envy requires courage. It is necessary to observe the emotions that arise when we see someone achieve something we desire. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Why does this achievement bother me? This type of self-analysis not only helps us recognize envy, but also reveals hidden needs and desires that we may have neglected. Once we identify envy, the next step is to break the pattern of comparison. In Paradise Lost, Satan's inability to accept the happiness of others intensifies his own misery. In our lives, abandoning comparison means focusing on what truly matters to us, rather than measuring our worth by others' success. Cultivating gratitude for what we have, our abilities, achievements, and even our challenges is a powerful antidote to envy. Moreover, it is essential to transform envy into fuel for growth. Instead of allowing it to paralyze or consume us, we can use it as a directional sign. What exactly is envy telling us? If we admire someone else's success in an area, it may indicate something we wish to achieve. In this case, the focus should shift to constructive actions, setting clear goals, seeking learning opportunities, and persevering. Finally, we must cultivate empathy. Just as Satan projects his frustration onto God and humanity, we often project our negative feelings onto those we envy. Recognizing that everyone faces invisible struggles helps us humanize others, dissolving resentment and promoting healthier connections. Breaking the cycle of envy is an ongoing process, but each step toward recognition, acceptance, and transformation is an act of emotional liberation. Overcoming envy is not just about recognizing its presence or breaking harmful cycles. It's also about filling the internal void that it exploits. This void often stems from a lack of self-acceptance and the absence of a clear purpose. In Paradise Lost, Satan is consumed by envy because he has lost his celestial identity and replaced love and acceptance with an insatiable thirst for power and revenge. His story teaches us that the cure for envy lies in reconnecting with who we truly are and building a meaningful purpose. Self-acceptance is the first step toward this transformation. It means accepting our imperfections and limitations without succumbing to relentless self-criticism. When we stop comparing our lives to others and begin to value our unique progress, envy loses its power. The practice of self-compassion may seem simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Recognizing that we are enough, regardless of external achievements, creates a solid foundation for genuine happiness. Moreover, finding a greater purpose in life redirects our energy from negative thoughts to positive actions. When we are committed to something meaningful, whether it's a personal passion, a professional project, or enriching relationships, the success of others stops being a threat and becomes an inspiration. As Satan shows us, the absence of purpose can turn anyone into a prisoner of their own destructive feelings. Thus, by combining self-acceptance with a clear purpose, we transcend the limits imposed by envy. Instead of living in the despair of never having enough, we focus on building a life of meaning and fulfillment. The final lesson is that overcoming envy not only frees our mind, but also opens us up to true joy.